Hi everyone, and welcome to another little bit of ball work. Yes, today we're going to do another part of the body. The other video that we put online, it had to do with the shoulder, that you can do either in your office, your home office, your work office, or in an actual yoga practice. And they're really great ways to release tension that we're all holding right now. Yeah. Sometimes we don't even recognize how much tension there is. We think we've taken a deep breath and released it. And then when we start doing some work with a ball, we realize the incredible amount of layers of tension that we do hold, okay? If we don't get into working those layers, then over time, periods of time, we then start to affect how the body is able to move because of the pull on the joints, because of the connective tissue. And that's really what we're working all the way through the muscles. We're working everything, but it is all connected through the connective tissue of the fascia. All right. So today we're going to work a couple of areas that, again, you can do in your office, whether at home or at work, on your mat, standing, seated, whichever way it is. Okay. And those areas are going to be, the first one we're going to go into is the buttocks area. And there are a group of muscles in there, but one in particular, the piriformis, yeah? And it sits like a sort of sideways triangle, and it comes right into the sacrum. And the reason it is an important one to keep supple is because it sits right on top of our sciatic nerve, one of the largest nerves in the body, which innervates all of the lower part of the torso and the legs. So we're going to start there, and what we're going to do, just like we did in the shoulders, I'm going to show you on the mat, and then I'll get up and show you on the wall as well, okay? So we're going to begin with the right buttocks, and we're going to come to just find what we're looking for is just a little sweet spot, if you want to think of it that way. It's a point that, it's like a pressure point almost. And what it is, it's just really a point of resistance where the muscle is holding fairly tightly, and we want to just find it. So it's pretty well in the center of your buttocks, and sometimes you just have to kind of roll a little bit. So there we go. I just found it. Okay, and so you may need to roll, and don't roll quickly. Go nice and slow, and you'll come into it. So there I've come into it. Now, we want to be in a position that is fairly comfortable. So here I may straighten my leg out and see, can I do it there? It kind of works, but for me, I need to keep my leg bent a little bit and turned out. So I'm going to place a block. If I didn't have a block, I'd use a blanket, a pillow, whatever the case may be. And so there I find that resisted area, and I'm going to soften. Now we could stay here easily 5 minutes, maybe longer, where we just keep softening, and that would be a real deep effect that we would get then. We'd start to really undo some of those tissues and the layers of them at a much deeper layer. But we don't always have the luxury of taking for a long practice, and we're going to do just a little 15-minute one. So I want you to just take a few breaths in each position. We're still going to make a difference. It just may not go to that deeper level, but I want you just to try to take at least 8 to 10 breaths in each little spot, because this might be something that you do every day. You could be seated on your chair right now at work as well, and have the buttocks suspended with the ball this way. And I want you to keep focused on that breath. Take this time to just find the evenness of your breath. And keep softening. And as you soften, this is what I was saying earlier, you realize, oh my gosh, I can still let go a little farther. And if you find, oh yeah, it kind of has gotten quiet, you can move just ever so gently, and it'll light it up again. It'll bring you to another point of resistance. So I'm going to show you on the wall now. So seated, we would stay here for a good 8 to 10 breaths. So I'm not rolling around. I'm not bouncing on it. I'm just letting gravity put the weight of my body into that ball, and I'm melting around that ball. Sometimes you're going to feel little popcorny feels and little sort of squiggly feels as well, yeah, as the fascia has reaction to the sustained pressure. So you can stay where you are, or we can do this on the wall as well, yeah? So on the wall, we can place the ball again right in the middle of the buttocks, and just as I was saying, we can just lean into it. And sometimes you need to come at a little bit of an angle, and each body is going to be different, so you can kind of move it until you find it, and there I go, there I found another spot. So then I'm going to just hold out there, and while you're there, you can just let your head relax. So I'm creating the pressure by leaning on the ball on the wall. And that just rhymed, and I didn't mean to. So as we find that pressure, we're just going to allow the buttocks to release a little further. So again, you could stay here for a good 8 to 10 breaths. You could stay here longer, yeah? When we're working passively, we're not going to cause injury to the body. If we were bouncing, if we were pushing, that's a different approach. And this, because we're just using that sustained, gentle pressure, we're going to allow all sorts of wonderful unwinding to happen. So that's the piriformis area. And then we're going to gently come off. And we're going to come into now another favorite area. Well, it's kind of a love-hate, yeah, is the IT band. The IT band comes down from a muscle, the top of the leg, the tensor fascia, and it comes down, and it's a kind of collagenous tissue that comes right down into the outer knee, and it gets very tight, yeah, on most of us, and runners in particular, dancers, but most of us, depending on just the way our body is functioning, will find that we will get some great relief, and especially if you have knee pain. This is probably one of the greatest ways to assist, depending on what's going on, of course, in the knee, but to relieve some of the pressure that you might be feeling in the knees because of the effects of the muscles pulling on them, okay? So we're going to start this one. We'll go on the floor first, and then we will come to the wall again. To come into this, I'll do my I'll do my left leg today, yeah? So as I do my left leg, I'm going to show you, I'm going to come, so your hip bone, yes, not the front of your hip bone, but the side hip bone, the trochanter, it's going to be just below that and just in front of it, okay? And I'm going to come onto it with my right leg just bent to the side, to give me a little bit of maneuvering ability, yeah? So I'm coming on to a point again, I'm finding that sweet spot, and I'm going to lift this leg up so you can just kind of see what I'm doing. I've got pressure right into that IT band, and I'm going to soften there. And I'm going to take about, again, 8 to 10 breaths here, as I let go and allow that muscle to unwind. And I may have a smile on my face right now, but my leg is not smiling. Yes, it will be smiling after we do this work together. But right now it's fairly intense, but I'm trying to soften and melt around the ball as opposed to pushing it down into the ball. So just let it melt around there. Right about now, it started to ease off. So I'm now going to roll up a little bit and let the ball go down until I find that next point of resistance, which is right about there. So I didn't have to move far, but you'll see that you'll come into different points of resistance along your leg. And I want you just to recognize, please, that those areas of resistance are what are pulling on the joints of your knee and even up into your hip. So the more we can work this daily, a few days a week, the greater assistance we give to the functioning of our joints. Again, you're letting that melt around that ball. Just softening. And once you feel, usually after about 8 to 10 breaths, you'll feel it shift just a little bit. Again, you could stay here up to 5 minutes or longer. You can keep rolling the ball a little further down. The further down you go, the more intense it's going to get, okay? So I want you to work kindly to yourself. And as we come to that next point of resistance, you're going to soften there. And as it goes quiet, just keep rolling down until it lights up again. And I can promise you, the effects of this are tremendous in loosening up the functioning, particularly of the knees, but also of the whole leg in general. So it might be your hip, your lower back that you feel it in, or it could be your knees, yeah? So from here, I'm going to show you on the wall as well. So we could keep going right until we get down. I got to about here, but I could keep going right until we get just above the knee joint. So we don't ever want to be sitting on joints themselves with a sustained pressure, but just above it, and you'll see that this last little bit can get pretty intense. So you want to work just mindfully there, okay? And you might do, the first part one day and then the latter part the next day. Coming to the wall, we can do the same thing. We would come in, again, just finding that pressure point, and we're just going to press into the wall. And once we find it, we're going to hang out there. So even if you're at work or if you're on the phone or if you have to, be thinking about something or discussing something, it might be nice to just take a moment and allow your body to have a little bit of work while we are doing all the other things that we have to do. So we would stay here for as long as needed as well. And you could work again from top to bottom on that way as well. So we've done the back of the buttocks, the side of the thigh, the IT band. I'm going to show you one last one that you can do while seated at your desk or on the mat. And that is the back, the very back of the thigh, which are the hamstrings. So we can go as high up, just below the sitting bone as we like. And again, you might need to move that around a little bit just to find where are you holding tension. And then once you find a spot, you can then cross your left leg over it just to weight it down a bit, and then you can lean forward a bit. If you're seated on a chair, you could just place that ball under the thigh with the leg on the chair, and you can cross your other leg over it. You could either have your ankle just over your thigh to create a little bit of pressure. You'll also open up the other buttocks piriformis in doing that, yeah? And as we lean forward, you'll see that it creates just a little greater intensity. So again, just breathing there. If you are at your desk, a nice way to just have your hands resting on your desktop, elbows, and just take a few breaths there. If we're on our mat, we can let the head just relax. Whenever we can give ourselves the opportunity to take a few conscious breaths, we allow all of our nervous system just to have a little reprieve. So as we're working this, we can stay here again for as long as we like. We can also move down the hamstring. You can move it down or up. So that one you can do on the mat, in a seated chair. You can also do it at the wall as well. This one we have to just be in a little different position, yeah? As we come into it, we have to take a little bit more of a leaning action. And it's not as great at the wall with this one, but what you could do, instead of getting into the hamstring, you can place the ball just on the sacrum. So another way of getting into the back of the legs, placing the ball on the sacrum, and I'm going to come over just a little bit, maybe you can see. So the sacrum, right between your hip bones. And as we lean on the sacrum, we're then going to come into a forward fold. And as we come on to a forward fold, we're coming into the hamstrings, and there's just a very gentle pressure. The ball is now rolled down almost to the sort of sitting bone area, yeah? And we're just going to breathe there. If the hamstrings are not happy with that level, you could rest your hands just on your thighs. You could rest your hands on your desk if that's available, or your chair. Grab your chair and just place it and allow yourself to rest there. If you're comfortable here, you can come into full posture with the hands down. And as we breathe here, again, you can stay there for as long as you like, yeah? And as you do come up, just come up slowly. Make sure your thighs are pulled up so your blood pressure doesn't drop too quickly and you get a little bit of a head zinger, yeah? So anytime we can bring awareness to just a few moments in our day, we just give ourselves a little reprieve. We help to keep a juiciness in the body, yes, a suppleness. And there's a lovely saying in yoga that we are only as young as our spines and bodies are supple. And it also assists our mind in remaining supple. May all of the new awarenesses, all the techniques of yoga continue to serve you, everyone. And we'll see you next time. Namaste.